We're joined here in the studio by Paul Murphy from AAA-PBP Anti-Austerity Alliance. You're not, Paul Murphy, the leader of your party, because your party, your group doesn't actually have a leader, but you're representing them here this evening, and thank you for talking to us. First of all, explain this grouping, Anti-Austerity Alliance, AAA-PBP. What is it?
So it's the most significant challenge by the genuine left in a general election in the history of the state. We're standing in 31 constituencies, and we offer, we think, a very different vision of politics based on people power, flowing from the massive movements we've seen against the water charges and for marriage equality.
And you have a number of agreed principles.
We do have a whole number of common principles.
Yeah. Although you're also publishing separate manifestos yourselves, so there are presumably similarities and differences.
Correct. I mean, on the broad range of things, we agree. We stand for a society that is based on solidarity and equality, whereby the corporations pay their taxes, the rich pay their taxes, and we have a provision of decent public services, and we resolve the housing crisis, putting people's needs
You're also part of this Right to Change group as well, which also includes Sinn Féin, is that right?
So we agree with the Right to Change principles from
So are you saying people should support you and then transfer to Sinn Féin, for example?
No, I think that people should support the policies that they support, but we think people should support the Anti-Austerity Alliance and other candidates of the left, people for profit, another of the left.
And Sinn Féin?
I wouldn't encourage people to transfer to Sinn Féin. For me, the problem is that Sinn Féin hasn't ruled out coalition with Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael or Labour. And I wouldn't want to recommend someone vote for Sinn Féin and end up putting the establishment parties back in.
All right. Just looking at a couple of your policies, I mean, you would cut USC, scrap that, for example, increase taxes on the higher paid. Corporation tax, do you back an increase in the rate of corporation tax here?
So as an initial step, we think that we should make the corporations pay the taxes that they're meant to pay. I mean, we have a headline rate of 12.5%. If that was actually an effective rate, we would raise at least €2 billion. We know that Apple potentially owes up to 19 billion in back taxes, and the government is saying we don't even want that. So that's a starting point. Then we think we need to have a discussion about, well, should the tax rate for corporations be higher than that?
Yeah, but people before profit, I think, would go a bit further, would they? They say that corporation tax should go up and should go back up immediately.
So I think what they raised in their manifesto yesterday is that it would go up by the end of a government term to 15%. I think we would agree with that. We'll be launching our own manifesto next week. But the basic idea, ordinary people have paid a massive price and continue to, right? Almost 1 in 3 people in this state now suffer from deprivation, 1 in 3 children with a massive housing crisis. That's a consequence of putting all the cuts, all the extra taxes on ordinary people and refusing to touch the corporations and the rich.
A year ago, you were a big supporter, a big cheerleader for the new Syriza government, the left-wing government in Greece. And then when they did a deal eventually with Europe to get the billions they needed to keep paying their public servants and keep their country afloat, you were very critical of that. Now, does that raise a question about your own credibility as someone who's willing to take practical, hard decisions?
Unfortunately, the Syriza leadership was faced with massive blackmail from a very undemocratic European Union and the European Central Bank, with the Irish government cheering them on, and capitulated. They broke their own election promises to their people and the programme upon which they were elected.
And they stood for election, and they won the election.
They did, and austerity is still being implemented in Greece, and the economy is continuing to go down. But I think a lot of people thought, OK, that will be the end of the rise of the left. But there's a process of political revolution happening across Europe and including in America. Jeremy Corbyn, the leader of the Labour Party, Podemos in Spain, look at Bernie Sanders in America.
I suppose the point I'm making is that Alexis Tsipras made a pragmatic decision here as a political leader, and you as an individual made a pragmatic decision. For example, you paid your property tax when you were selling your own home in the recent past. And sometimes politics is about those kind of practical decisions.
In terms of my property tax, I had no choice when I moved into the constituency to live in Tallaght. I had no choice but to pay my property tax. That's a reality. And there's a big difference between that and reneging on election promises, like unfortunately Syriza has done, but much more substantially the Labour Party has done. Labour has betrayed everything that they were elected on, everything they were supposed to stand for, and that's why there's the basis for a significant new left force to replace the Labour Party and to do what we did on the water charges, on housing, to repeal the 8th Amendment, to provide decent public services.
Paul Murphy, there we'll leave it. Thanks indeed for joining us on the programme.